This is about to be one long episode. I'm not one to believe in conspiracy theories, but honestly, at this point, I don't think this is just a conspiracy anymore. This is Hot Takes.
I don't like Chick-fil-A.
Taylor Swift is overrated.
If you drive a pickup truck for reasons that are other than employment related, I don't like you.
Listen to your friends who care about astrology.
Escape rooms are fun.
What is your hot take?
Drop a hot take.
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 Hot Take. Welcome back to Hot Takes. I'm your host, Ian Isaiah. Today we're talking about a very tragic story. It's kind of a dark episode, so if that's not your thing, I would advise you to skip off this episode now. But today we are talking about the Maui fires. Now, I'm sure you all have heard of this, but just in case you haven't yet, last week there was a devastating fire to Maui. And it was quick, it was out of control, supposedly, and it was just completely heartbreaking to look at. And when I say quick, I mean like it was over within 4 or 5 days. It started August 8th, from what I understand, and it was done by the 11th or 12th. It was totally done. But at first, I just thought this was a heartbreaking story and that it was, just a natural disaster. But now looking at other evidence, it doesn't seem like it was just a natural disaster. So today we're going to look at the footage and see why I no longer think that this was just a natural disaster and that it totally wasn't a government hoax. So without further ado, let's get started with this first video.
Live right across the street from my house.
Multiple new videos show that downed power lines may have sparked the whole tragedy.
Freaking power line just went down.
Shane True walked out of his Lahaina home at dawn last week, just as a wooden pole snapped, igniting the brush in a flash.
Like somebody lit a fuse for a firework, and it just followed a straight line.
With a garden hose in hand, True says construction companies brought their water tankers to assist.
We thought it was all contained. And then from there, just went ahead about our day, thinking that it was all done.
The soon-to-be inferno was far from over. This security video shows the flash of a downed power line inland from Lahaina. At least 3 class action lawsuits have been filed against Hawaiian Electric, alleging that if they'd de-electrified the system, it would have saved lives.
So it may have been a downed power line that caused it, but why wouldn't you turn off the electric? It's just wild to think about. Somebody in the comments said, yep, it seems that they left the power on and turned the water off, which leads me into kind of my next point in the next few videos that I'm about to show you, which is that apparently the water was turned off to the island. An island surrounded by water had no water to fight the fire with, but the power was left on. It's just, it's already, things are not adding up even after just one video. So next we're gonna go to this video, which will probably really start bothering you. The caption is, "Smart climate change. It stops where the millionaires' mansions begin." Isn't that interesting? Look at this. Do you see that? Like, let's go back a little bit. Did you see that one house? Did you see that one house? That was right there, and it was like completely surrounded by engulfed homes, but there was one home in the middle that was completely untouched. It's really shocking. It's really shocking and really concerning. Like, how did it go around that? The real answer is it didn't. Clearly somebody was controlling this fire at the end. Clearly, make no mistake, no fire just like cuts around properties like that, like the fire knows. It's just completely and utterly devastating. Someone in the comments said, I've been reading about how the rich people on the island are trying to force the poor people off, not helping them and hoping they leave. If that's true, that's evil. Gee. Well, I have to break it to you. It might just be true. It's sickening is what it is, but it might just be true. Now we're going to go to this video of a resident who went to the Hawaiian government's, one of their meetings.
I just came from a meeting run by the governor. All these developers were talking about forget the permit process. We're going to build homes, not in Lahaina, and make these homes available. You know what the truth of that is? They were like fast track their development, and they're not fucking helping the people over here. There was not one conversation in this meeting about the people. Every conversation that was had, every developer that came up there and talked about what they could offer was about getting rid of the permits so that they can steal water from our streams, they can fucking fast track westernization development, and forget about the culture and place. That's gonna be our hardest journey in this long road to recovery.
I mean, it's just so sad. It's so devastating. And just hearing, you know, a grown man cry like that, it's really hard. And it's so sick. It's so sick. You know, it's like, regardless, again, this is why it doesn't make sense, because regardless of whether this is a natural disaster or not, why is the government immediately talking about, oh, well, how we're going to develop the island and make it a better place in the future? Nobody freaking cares about that right now. Nobody cares unless you're sick in the head. Nobody cares. Unless you have no heart for the people who just lost their homes, their lives, everything about them. It's so sick. It's so sick. Like, I can't even comprehend, like, who in their right mind would think that that's okay. But we're not even to the worst part yet, okay? Let's keep going. Here's another video, the caption, I'm just wondering how a wildfire can jump houses like that. So another video of the aftermath. I mean, you see this? It completely surrounded that one house right there in the middle. And over to the side, it was like cut out this corner there. But have you also noticed something a little fishy about this too? How much of this has gotten media attention? Not much. Not much at all. Which is even more disheartening, because it just proves even further how much you cannot trust the media. But we're still getting there. We are still getting there. Here's this girl talking about it.
So I went out to Lahaina yesterday, and I thought that I should just update the world on what FEMA is doing or what's going on, because I just saw that they posted a website to defend themselves against the rumors. But I went out to Lahaina yesterday to help and talk to One Made Hub from a native Hawaiian, and they got insulin from a private sector because obviously we are not getting any help from the government or anyone at all. So they were getting insulin boated in, and it got turned away from FEMA on the shoreline. So they turned away that, and then that was 1 or 2 days ago, because the hub literally told us that. They were like, we don't even know what's going on or why they're turning things away, because it's not like they're getting us stuff. And then also found out that we need storage containers, and FEMA turned away 60 of them. just yesterday as well, or the day before. And we need those things because there's supposed to be more hurricanes coming. So I don't know what's going on, but I thought I should share so you guys know what's going on from someone who is here and also going to Lahaina and seeing all of this with my own eyes and hearing it from people that are over there with the hubs and like living over there and managing all of this, because I'm like, I don't know what they're doing, but it's not a lot besides turning away supplies. And I know there's a lot of talk going around on here, and so I just thought I should relay that message.
I mean, it's just absolutely insane. They're getting stuff to help, right? They're getting stuff coming to them, and the government is rejecting it. Somebody in the comments, why aren't you out helping? Maybe because she's trying to update us on everything that's happening. She probably is helping and just took a break to get away into a private space so she could actually talk about this and give us an update on what's actually happening. Like, is that such a wrong assumption that that would even be possible? I don't understand. But we're still not done, because she said the government's not helping, right? But they're helping, kind of. But we're gonna save that video for last. Here, we're going to now go to the chief police officer? Yeah. Chief of police. Chief of Maui Police.
Like a bomb and fire went on. All of those buildings virtually are going to have to be rebuilt. It will be a new Lahaina in its own image, its own values. It's going to be billions of dollars. We are so coordinated with state, county, and federal support. 6 hours to get the approval from the president to bring those resources in. This was, of course, a shock to see a hurricane and its winds. I think that we're seeing this for the first time in many different parts of the world. I've been contacted by several governors across the country to share their experiences in a time where global warming is combined with strengthening.
So let's just go over a few of the red flags that he said. Very coordinated. Bomb and fire went off. All we will need to rebuild is billions of dollars in its own likeness and own image with its own values. What does that even mean? And it's so coordinated with state, county, and federal support that within less than 6 hours they got approval from the president to bring resources, hurricane-type winds that just happened to be the same time as the bomb-like fire. Governors calling to share their experience. So we start the press conference out with bombs and explosions, then set up how we're going to get some smart cities in Hawaii, and then we end it with 2030 propaganda of global warming. Right.
It's so screwed up. The one thing that does bother me a little bit is that this guy is talking about aluminothermic explosives, which somebody in the comments is calling him out for that. Where are you getting evidence has found aluminothermic explosives? He said, reliable source. And somebody said, all you have to say is reliable sources and you expect people to believe this? What is your reliable source? Yeah, if you don't cause more if you can't back up that reliable source from somewhere. Honestly, nothing is more of a reliable source than the photos and the videos. We're gonna do one more video of the fire devastation before we go on to my last two things to share with you guys.
Can anyone truly explain how cars are incinerated in this type of way? That a natural fire can literally cremate every single thing in its supposed path. I've never seen anything like this in my life, and I'm genuinely asking a question to anyone that has any kind of knowledge or experience in firefighting or anything like these natural disasters. Is this a natural occurrence that this can possibly happen? Something that can look like an apocalypse came through, that something just literally incinerated everything in its path. Can someone please comment below? If you have experience in anything like this, have you ever seen anything like this?
It's just horrifying. It's horrifying. Oh, here's somebody in the comments. How did they write a book about the Maui fire so fast? That's actually really interesting. I didn't even know about that. Wow. And notice what the title says. It's not just about the Maui fire. It's the story of the 2023 Maui fire and its implications for climate change. Gee, because this was all a climate change thing, right? It wasn't even like it was just like, oh, it just happened. It was a power line, according to the evidence here. Unless you know what the actual thing was. Do you know? Stop calling it climate change. It's not. Somebody in the comments said, are there any photos from any other areas consumed by wildfires that show vehicles in the aftermath? I want to see a comparison. I'm trying really hard not to jump to conspiracies here, but there are far too many strange conditions in this disaster, and that's exactly what I was thinking. At first, I wasn't buying into it. I was just like, y'all are making this up. And then I started seeing the evidence of all the houses and how there are certain houses that are being cut out, and I was like, yeah, this is a little strange, isn't it? Now we're going to jump to... I said 2. I guess it's 3 more things.
A few moments later.
I guess I said there's 2 more videos. There's actually 4. So here is another one. This time it's the governor speaking.
Well, first and foremost, if you're relying on social media, with all due respect...
That's just an example, sorry.
Well, that's the example you used.
Yeah.
It's a terrible example because social media is the worst source.
Well, sir, you just have to go out and talk out people out of the street.
I think you'll let me answer the question as governor.
It's so insane.
Doing reporting through social media is idiotic. Doing reporting in person is intelligent. I'm glad you're doing some of that. We also, as you can imagine, are speaking to people constantly. Everyone is speaking to me through my cell phone. Same can be said of our local officials. We're local people like you described. Don't use social media to judge these questions. You have people who are predators on social media.
He's the predator!
You have people who want to spread negativity. I think you're aware that in this state, for the last going on 5 years now, I and others give you raw data on these crises. Very few other municipalities do that kind of thing. We give you updates constantly. You can say you want to, all you want, that there's public mistrust, but then when the people go out, whether it's people restoring...
It makes me infuriated. It infuriates me. Like, genuinely. And the fact that this only has 4,600 views, it needs to have more. People need to see this. And honestly, with the governor saying don't trust social media, if he was saying that 7, 8, 10 years ago, I maybe would have believed him. But nowadays... social media is more trustworthy than the actual news because the news bias is so crazy. It is. And I just can't even. I can't. It is too much to wrap my brain around. It really is. And the way he just talks down, I'm the governor, I'll speak, please. Have you heard anything from any of the locals on this island? Anything? Because they have said just how devastating the fire is. You listen to them, okay? You have no concern at all. No concern. And here's the top comment on that video, which is very sad that it only has 4,600 views, but it is what it is. Oh yes, why trust social media with real citizens? Because they generally have nothing to gain, unlike elected officials. There's nothing else to say to that. I mean, like, yeah, there's nothing else for them to gain. There really isn't, even with the government involved. And that's in our second to last video. This is of a news reporter reporting on scene on Fox News.
But I will say this, I saw that $700 is going to be sent to the families of Lahaina. Now, I just did some quick math, Pete. There's about 13,000 residents of Lahaina. Times $700, that's $1.9 million. I think this week we announced another $40 billion for Ukraine. I'm not sure where we are at this point, Pete, but I believe it's something like $140 billion total for Ukraine. And last I checked, this is the United States of America, as is East Palestine, Ohio. So I don't know
I'm sure
why
you've
it's
heard
so
about
hard,
the water problems
comparatively, to rally for America, and so easy, comparatively, to support Ukraine.
And this one only has 3,000 views, which is, I just don't understand. $700 for each family. What is that gonna do for them, huh? They lost their entire lives, and all you can give them is a bloody $700. And this is America, like he said. This is not Ukraine. And I've talked about this with people before, and they're like, well, we're sending money to Ukraine so we don't start a war. You're about to start a war with your own gosh darn country. People just lost their entire lives. And you can't do anything better than a meager $700? That's barely enough for them to get a flight back here, if they can even get one. Like, that's not even, I can't. And yet we're sending billions of dollars over to Ukraine. This is your own people, America. This is not the America I know and love. Can we get back to that America, please? It's so awful. But here's maybe a little spark of joy in the middle of all of this. Here's a New York Times article. Maui's emergency management chief resigns after questions about fire response. Interesting.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
The chief, Herman Andaya, cited his health in stepping down. His agency's decision not to sound emergency sirens as wildfires near Lahaina had drawn scrutiny. Yeah, it would. New York Times. Honestly, I think this might be the first time ever that the New York Times has gotten this close to the truth. Like, this is the one time I would say, you know what, New York? You might be onto something. Because how do you, this massive wildfire is going on, and as people are asking you about it, instead of saying something or owning up to it, you just resign? It's not my problem anymore. I resigned. I'm not dealing with that anymore. It's not my thing. Nope. I'm out. Extremely, extremely fishy, and a terrible, terrible look for you and your department. It's just crazy. It's so crazy. And I've probably said that about 100 times so far in this video, but I mean, there's nothing else to say to it. The evidence speaks for itself. There's not much else I have to say. Now, one more video, and this is kind of a stitch of something that Oprah said, and this other girl. Let's watch this.
At some point, I will make a major donation after all of the smoke and ashes have settled here, and we figure out what the rebuilding is going to look like. This is going to be a long and difficult process, but
meanwhile, and I wanted to share some local updates, shocking or maybe not. Did you hear about the fires? Did you hear that the government of Hawaii states their goal is to rebuild and make the entire island of Maui the first smart island? They want the entire island governed by AI, as outlined in the Hawaii Digital Government Summit of 2023. Wow! Now they're going to come to the rescue for this horrible problem.
What a coincidence. What a perfect coincidence. It actually reminds me of Larry Silverstein prior to 9/11 taking out a lease on the Twin Towers.
I am not convinced. Again, we don't have enough evidence. We were not as technologically advanced at the time of 9/11. So that last part, I'm not bought into the conspiracy theory of 9/11. I wasn't even alive for that. So, I mean, when everybody has a mini camera in their pockets nowadays, every single person can take this thing out and just record everything they see and everything they, we have all the evidence in the world, okay? Somebody in the comments said, by donation, she meant a significant purchase of that devastated land, and that's what I'm thinking about. If she really wanted to make a donation, why doesn't she make it to the people that are only getting $700 from the government because the government can't do any better because they're sending everything to Ukraine? Oprah, send it to the people. Send it to the people. It's not, the island, Forget the island at this point. Forget the island. And I know that probably sounds really hateful, but it's the people from the island who matter. If you really wanted to help, you'd help rebuild the island so those people can move back to the island. No cost. Because that should be what America's about, right? Helping others in times of need, right? That should be what we're about. But apparently we're not. Apparently all we care about is just development. Can't wait for the 2024 election. This is gonna be this is gonna be a good one. So anyway, that's pretty much all the evidence I have for this video. I'm sure it's going to be a very long one. You know, as I'm sitting here recording, I have now been recording for almost 40 minutes. Yeah, I have nothing else to say except screw you, Hawaii. Screw you, Hawaiian governor. This is unacceptable. This is... I mean, like, I'm speechless. I'm genuinely speechless. I've been thinking about doing this episode for 4 days, and I've been putting it off because I've just been so overwhelmed and so heartbroken. And so disgusted. So... it's just terrible. And I really do hope the people can somehow, by the grace of God, get their island back. Or at the very least, be able to find a place where they can live and reunite at a very low cost, if not free to them. I can't help. I wish I could. I wish I could. I wish I had that sort of money and power, but the elites are disgusting. They just are. There are a couple more videos in there and spouts of evidence. One being that apparently the government was... you saw the part with the cars, right? Supposedly the government, the police, they were blocking off that part of... they were blocking off the street to get off the island. And so people died inside their cars. There's another one that said the death count was at 111. I think it's a lot more than that. I'm just saying. And only 3 bodies were identified. You've had over a week. And I know it takes a long time. And I don't want to, degrade everybody. But it's really, really fishy. And at first, what I thought was a conspiracy actually seems to be a truth. And the government is trying to convince us of this other conspiracy. I'm not buying it, as I'm sure at this point you all are not buying it anymore either. So, yeah. Hawaiian governor, you are an evil, evil man. You are so evil. And if this project really was just to destroy the island so you can reclaim it as an AI island, you are a disgusting, horrifying man. And to the people of Maui, I am so sorry for you. This should not happen to you. This should not happen to anybody. But what makes it worse is that it seems like it was all planned. I have nothing else to say to that. So I guess we'll just end the episode there. Because I am so mentally drained from doing this. Thank you for watching this episode of Hot Takes. If you enjoyed this video, which I hope you did, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps me out, and it makes sure you never miss a future episode. Thanks, guys.